Hi, my name is Ann Heyse. I am the July reader for the Dickinson series. Thank you for joining me. I just released this brand new book, Drink in Sweet Rain. It came out in March of this year, so I am excited to be reading from this. It's kind of a culmination of about 5 years of poetry. It's my first collection, so it was fun to put it together, and I'm delighted that I can share some of these poems with you tonight. So I'm just going to start in the beginning. There are 4 sections to this book about different subjects, and but the first one is about Door County, the place I love. I feel grateful every day to be able to live here. So I'm just going to start with that. I'm going to start with one called antecedents, which means a thing or event that existed before. I think a lot about the people who lived before me on this land. I have a beautiful stone wall on the property, and it just makes me think of who might have been here before me. Antecedents. The stone wall out my back window that marks our land is beautiful, but also a testament to toil. Did some gruff farmer make his young child haul those rocks each spring to the edge? Did ice, barely thawing, turn small fingers blue? Or was it the wife, young perhaps, complying when he told her in grunts that it needed to be done? When I pick apples off this ground, I am reminded that someone planted these gnarly trees, walked in this exact place with a rake, with a limp, with a scowl. Why can't I think of him as handsome or kind? I have looked but find no remains of a cabin. The first year we lived here, rhubarb leaves emerged, and off, way in the corner, a shrub bloomed, rose pink. It did not grow wild, it must have been planted. Were they like the winters here, silent, gray, cold, pained? Or were they fine, glad to wait for the colors of spring? I'd like the rocks on this wall to cry out, to tell me. And one more about the people who lived in Door County before me. It's called Fishing Villages. I doubt the people who lived in them all those years ago spent their days picnicking by the sea, hunting for wildflowers on cliffs, or laughing as they chopped heads off a fish. Every inch was hardscrabble, every swallow severe, not to mention storms. So far north on the island, the growing season was nothing more than a spit in time, enough to plant one crop of beans. The only consolations were the summer light, so much of it, and stars that shone only when they were too tired to see them. I have many poems in this book about spring and the delight of summer, but this one is about winter. Crossing Eagle Harbor on 27 inches of ice. Snowshoes latched, we intend to walk straight across to the island, but currents underneath, with cracks possible, and the mention of Johnny D, who went down, went under, make us stay close. Instead of across, we follow the shoreline, chatter while winds bully, remember summer waves open and blue. Around the point we reach the warmth of the sun, lie down in the light, faces up, backs cold in the snow, say, here I am. And this is about living close to water and how grateful I am to be at a place where I can be close to water. It's called Holy Water. On a trip to find winter sunshine, I left the stone beaches of this lake. Blue sky, red cliffs, sedimentary precipice. I ate those meals of delight. Roadrunners and crusted quail threw me delicious crumbs. Yellow leaves, brilliant against rock slot canyons, were feast. Eons ago, it was sea there, too. The color fed me, but did not quench. There was thirst in my taproot. Better than to come home, to make daily pilgrimage to lake edge, to hear hymn of waves, sermons wise with non-words, psalter of splash, choir of gulls and terns, and then the sweet baptism, the diving in, the quenching and full immersion in sparkling blue. The next section is about some of the places I have lived or traveled or visited. And the section is called, What Can I Do Here Except Remember? Taj Mahal. I was there, and I have a small box and pictures to prove it. My father, who had seen plenty of masterpieces, said repeatedly it was the most beautiful of all. They were so full of information that day, and I, a child, so empty of it. What were these words? Mausoleum, Quran, forbidden images of the Prophet, inlaid stone, white marble. Why did they swoon so? And what becomes of a child who at 3 has seen reflecting pools in India, but must go back to people who have only ever stayed home? I was a teacher before I moved here and had the privilege of taking high school students on trips to the West. We camped and hiked and biked and kayaked in South Dakota. I have wonderful memories of that the prairies of South Dakota. And this was a particularly memorable day. A buffalo's eyes. Don't raise your voices, the man tells us. They like it silent. Listen to the ancestral wind traveling this valley. Hear, like they do, the wings of the peregrine riding thermals. We are taken among them. The hulking animals raise their heads to watch us, then graze. A buffalo's eyes are large, deep. Its snort is not unlike the sound of a whale breaching above the surface of an ocean, blowing air, while prairie grasses seethe and roil like so many waves. When it is time for the harvest, first one and then another will distance himself, herself, will walk away from the herd. Sometimes they will eye the marksmen as they offer themselves for the slaughter. Don't raise your voices, the man told us. They like it silent. I spent a summer in northern Uganda, a place where there had been war, warring tribes, tribal warlords that committed atrocities that every person I met in northern Uganda had seen or suffered from. I was there as a teacher. We believed that the best way to rebuild after war was to help Ugandans rebuild Uganda. And the best way to do that was to beef up their education. So I was there as a teacher, just assisting teachers, kind of bringing in educational techniques and strategies. But I became friends with so many wonderful people. We were traveling north to our destination where we would be teaching, and this is called On Learning We Could Not Take Pictures of the Nile. Our driver slowed. Giddish, glibly we chatted while snapping photos of the river we had heard of all our lives. From some hidden place they swooped, soldiers in camouflage. Shouting, they stuck machine guns in our windows, grabbed the cameras off our laps. If I had been more used to them, these men with guns, perhaps I would have been more gutsy, scolding the scrawny one with blackened teeth for wanting bribes, or pointing my finger at the older one saying, "You should not be so mean." Instead, we performed the ludicrous exchange, money for our cameras back, so that I could take pictures of this place where soldiers turned rivers into fear. This is called Remembering a Tonga, a refugee camp in northern Uganda. I did visit this refugee camp one afternoon, and there were children lurking about and curious. And one of the mothers told me that I frightened them because of my white skin and my blondish hair, that I looked ghost-like to them. They were not used to white people. But still, these children were curious and wanted attention. They were hungry. There was disease in the camp. It was a forced dislocation to this place, and so people were in close quarters without enough food and horrible sanitation. So it was a heartbreaking scene, heartbreaking setting, and yet these children wanted desperately to play with me and wanted my attention. So I began to play patty cake, and they couldn't understand English, but they could understand how to play patty cake when I showed them. So there's a good chance that those children are dead. They probably did not survive life in that camp. Remembering a Tonga, a refugee camp in northern Uganda. In most unexpected moments, I think of you. Your small faces haunt me, slink out of my memory, and grab on with a tight hold. I feel the shy and dirty hands that touched me, your bony bodies gaunt, drawn, hungry, wearing smelly, torn, and tattered clothes. But most of all, I hear your unchildlike laughter. You just played at play, too far gone to hope. What can I do here so far away from you except remember? I hold you sometimes in my dreams. We play patty cake, sing songs. I read to you about a mouse and a muffin. I buy you water guns. You run through sprinklers in our backyard. I put you high on a stool and let you pour in the sugar as we make cookies in a big blue bowl. But wait, you are not here. You never will be. And here is a poem I wrote during the pandemic as we had plenty of water to wash our hands. It's called Hand Washing. We are urged to wash our hands. The water runs, becomes warm just when the time is up, just when my song is over. My eye goes to the picture of the children I taught in Uganda, who hauled water each day before school, then carefully rationed that heavy cargo borne by their backs. Which would they choose? A gulp when the sweat poured down their faces, or water for their mother's pot to boil rice for their supper? Drips for a skinned knee, or a sip as the bell rung at the end of class? Abraham Occam, 15, had body odor enough on a Friday afternoon to pour water in a small basin, wash so he could flirt with Alice. It meant another trip to the well, another wait in line. Elizabeth Marie saw I was thirsty, knew we teachers liked our bottles of water. She walked 2 miles, spent the money her family had given her for books, smiled proudly to sacrifice for me. Today my water runs, theirs does not. What song can I sing today for them as I wash my hands and remember? Here is another pandemic poem. On learning that the words crisis and sift are related, I picture my mother's hands and the silver mesh sieve. She was not a meticulous cook, but occasionally she took the time to sift flour. Big lumps remained, could not pass through. That's the point, she told me. Only that which is willing to be broken down gets through. Heartbreak, infection, isolation, they sift us. What matters falls in. On a walk, I see a neighbor. Hungry to hear each other speak, we discuss books at a 6-foot distance. Our children call. In the afternoons, I drive out to see birch trees, fields in thaw, and ice breaking up in the harbor. The gulls have returned. While my husband reads the recipe to me, I mix scones. We laugh when the blueberries spill. I memorize psalms. He plays guitar. I read. What does not matter does not make it through. Here's another one. This section I'm reading from right now is about relationships. Some of the people I've loved. There's a few about my husband. I will read one about us. It's called Roost. Roost. Before, in another kind of life, we daily left each other, flying out to peck for food, build nests, ride thermals. Now I begin my day with coffee. He puts in cream for me, but leaves the spoon so I can add the right amount of sugar. The news on the radio is not good. Like old chickens we cluck, dithering about the future. There are 2 chairs here, and side by side we watch the birds come to the feeder. Bunting, grosbeak, nuthatch. In winter, when the sunrise comes so late, we linger. It is soft luxury to wait. I was a teacher for many years, and I loved it. I loved the relationships I had with students. Kids are just great, surprising, and wise, and fun. This one was called The Assignment Was Kindness. A room full of children wrote stories. The assignment was kindness. They chattered, chewed pencils, asked questions, wrote words. Bent over yellow papers, sprawled on fraying carpet, they read to each other out loud. Someone fell on a road. I helped him up. A lady at the playground was crying, so I pushed her kid in a swing. I want to tell you about the day I was adopted. I knit a hat for my sister. My grandpa, the one in the wheelchair, took us to dinner. A nurse came every day to our house when my mother was dying. I gave my cousin my cat. I watched them and listened. Need and help, sorrow and solace, the 2 flitted about side by side like sparrows. There is ruin and there is kindness. Both make fragile hearts strong. to soar. Here are a few from the last section. This one is called Color Palette 2020. What is it like to walk in orange skies, the color of sunset but mean, like when I'm insulted even though I was nice? The fires are raging and the children are coughing, even the one in cages. The blue of the water is red. How can that be except maybe blood, too much of it? But no, it's the algae blooming, so I can't swim. No one can swim. If we do, our skin will burn. The white in the Arctic will leak black oil, and how will the ptarmigans hide in the snow? Will they die out? Why are we emptying the earth of species? I look out at green, but not everyone looks out at green. How will the earth breathe without green? Already people gasp for air. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. This one is called A Man, a Woman. Section 1. His skin, the color of rich ground that grows potatoes, sings lamentations, sings silence, sings pain. I wonder if, in the summer of his home, his children are laughing, twirling in soft grass. And if they are, and you were there, would you listen to old stories, let them make you wise and good? Or would you, even in that place of air, keep your foot on his neck and hold him down? 2. Her headscarf, a lovely shade of mint, hides curls and a surprising streak of auburn. I wonder if, in the reddish soil of her home, pomegranates are growing just now in her garden. And if they do, and you were there sitting in the sun, would you smile, take one that she offered, say thank you? Or would you stand disdaining her, doling out bits of manners like crumbs? Spring color on an incident that happened in Central Park, May 25th, 2020. Goldfinches have been here for weeks, but they have turned suddenly yellow. They glint in the morning sun. With our oranges, we have invited in orioles, and they come to our windows, colors flashing. We were hoping bluebirds would inhabit the vacant houses we have put up, and they have. They splash in the nearby bird bath, preening their blue. It is him, red of hummingbird breasts and crystalline of their wings, tawn of towhee, and oh, the amen of indigo. I read today of a man in a park who also delights in the flapping of wings. His color, though, brings fear to a woman not taken with wonder. Apparently, some people, stingy, want only white. I have had the privilege of knowing many refugees and immigrants over the years, and so this is my plea for them. It is an older poem that some of you have heard, but I think it's still very relevant. It's called Our Country is Awash in Fear. In northern Uganda, I held orphans. Their snot flowed and there were no Kleenexes to make them tidy. We held them diaperless on our laps. Being newcomers, we were unsure how to handle the cleanup. They were babies after all, sure to be messy. The one now in my arms had been sleeping when the men came in to do their slaughter, to slice off arms, stab kidneys, spleens, hearts, ride screams in the night. And once I was close to a man just across a yard. They whispered about him, pointed, saying it was his words that ordered the horrors. The children who were near me looked down, scooted their benches close to me. Forgive me then if I am not afraid of a dark-skinned mother behind me in the checkout line who is buying Oreos for her daughter's class picnic, or even of the man who cannot understand my English but makes it clear to me in hand signals that he has locked his keys inside his car, which is next to mine in the grocery parking lot, and would like to borrow my phone. Let them come with their snot, with their shit. Let them sing songs they have learned to sing in their pain. Let them rest on this green ground, stick out their tongues and drink sweet rain. Thank you for listening. Thank you for appreciating poetry and for viewing the Dickinson series. It's a great way to promote poetry and words and the lovely people that write them in this county. So thanks again, and hopefully we'll be back in person someday soon.